All right, Tabos, say good morning. Let's begin. We are beginning the fourth parak of Avoda Zara. Today's daf is Nun 50. We are picking up at the Mishnah Mem Tes Amud Beis 49b. Says the Mishnah. Rabbi Shmuel Silber. We'll say beautiful Gemara. Rabbi Shmuel Silber. Shalosh Havanim Zu B'tzad Zu B'tzad Markelis Hasuros Ushtayim Mutaros. Most Rabbi Shmuel says the following. We're going to focus in the Mishnah over here on the Avoda Zara known as Markelis. So remember again, we saw Markelis before. Markelis is an Avoda Zara made up of 3 stones. Now, normally the way the stones were piled were 2 and 1 on top. That was Markelis. So we'll say, the idea over here is, Rabbi Shmuel says, what if you find stones, other stones, 3 stones, by the side of Markelis? In other words, you have the Markelis idol, which we'll say is a very simple idol if you think about it. By the way, we'll see later on, the Gemara Rashi is going to point out that the symbolism of that 1 stone on top of 2 stones is a head and arms. It represents just the most simplistic surah of a body, of a pesel, of an idol. So Rishmal says, Shalosh Havanim Zu B'tzad Zu. If you find 3 stones, right, lined up one next to the other, Rabbi saying, now this is interesting. This is Rabbi Shmuel saying, even if they're not piled 1 on top of 2, but it's just 3 across, Zu B'tzad Zu B'tzad Markelis, close to a Markelis, close to a regular Markelis. So what happens? Asuros. Rabbi Shmuel says that we assume that those 3 stones are part of the Markelis Avoda Zara. So Rashi says over here, Rashi says, B'tzad Markelis, Rashi says, Markelis Gadol Shekvar Avduhu, V'zarku Alav Avanim Harbe. So we'll see whether Rabbi Shmuel means, remember, the way you worship Markelis is you throw stones at it. So whether Rabbi Shmuel is saying that those 3 stones are considered to be ultimately, so either a Markelis themselves, or perhaps stones that were thrown at Markelis. Either way, they're going to be aser. Ushtay mutaros. But if lemaisa, you could just use that gemara here. But lemaisa, but 2 stones next to it are going to be mutter. Chachamim mem tesamad beis the Mishnah. The Chachamim say sheniros imo asuros. If the stones, we'll say, so sheniros imo asuros means if those stones ultimately again are seen with it. Rashi says, first wide line in Rashi, sheniros imo, dinira shenaflu misham asuros ben gimel ben shtayim. So we'll say, if it appears, so this is interesting, this is the Rabbana now, the Chachamim. The Chachamim say that if the stones appear together with the Markelis, then what? Then ultimately they're going to be aser. So we'll define all of these terms in just a little bit. V'she'eniros imo mutaros. But if the stones don't appear together with the Markelis, then ultimately again they're mutter. So we'll say what the Chachamim seem to be saying is as follows: Sheniros imo means that the stones appear to be part of Markelis. So Rashi points out over here that Sheniros imo can mean dinir shenaflu misham, that have the appearance that they fell off the Markelis. So we'll see that Chachamim really refer to proximity. That if the stones have proximity to the Markelis, then ultimately again they'll be considered part of the Markelis. If not, they're mutter. So we'll say, so let's go back there. So it says the Gemara. So fundamental machlokes, Rabbi Shmuel and the Chachamim. So we'll say again, remember, Rabbi Shmuel says if there are 3 stones, Zu B'tzad Zu, in close proximity to the Markelis, I should say 3 stones next to each other, close to the Markelis, it's aser, but 2 is mutter. The Chachamim say if the stones appear with the Markelis, then they are going to be aser. But if they don't appear with the Markelis, they're going to be mutter. We'll say Gemara Mem Tes Amud Beis. Bishlam Rabbanan Kasavri Ovdim L'Shvarim Niros. So we'll say according to the Rabbanan, it makes sense. The Rabbanan hold that Ovdei Avoda Zara worship even pieces of idols, even Shvarim. So therefore, Niros Imo the Ikal Meimar Minei Nafal. Therefore, again, I will say, if the stones are close enough to the primary Markelis idol, then by definition, you could say the stones came from the Markelis idol. She'ein niros imo mutaros. But ultimately, again, if it appears that the stones are not part of the primary Markelis, then what? Then lemaisa again, they're mutar. And Rabbi Shmuel my kasavar. But what does Rabbi Shmuel hold? I ovdin l'shvarim afilu tartinami. So if Rabbi Shmuel holds that Ovid Avoda Zara worships even what? Even shvarim, even pieces of Avoda Zara, then even 2 stones should be aser. So the Gemara says, and if Ovdei Avoda Zara do not worship pieces of an idol, then afilu tlas nami lo. Then even 3 stones should not be problematic. So says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, biyadua shenishru mimenu divrei kol asuros. So if you know that the stones definitely came from the Markelis, everybody will agree that it's aser. Va'afilu man damar ein ovdim l'shvarim, hani nili avodas chacham delav hainu archein. And I will say, even according to the opinion who says that an Oved Kochanim doesn't normally worship pieces of Avoda Zara, broken pieces of Avoda Zara, that's only when it's not the normative form of Al-Hacha Demeikara Tavure Mitveri. But I will say, in this case over here, this is actually very interesting. When it came to the Avoda Zara of Markalis, so Dafka, the stones were not cemented together. There are two stones on the bottom and then one on top of it. That was the Avoda Zara. The stones were Dafka not cemented together. So in this case over here, you're by definition dealing with an Avoda Zara of pieces. So pligi. So we'll say, so where do they argue? Bistama. So they argue in a case, so we'll say where it's unknown. Is this a piece of Avoda Zara or not? So top of Nun. We'll say top of Nun. 50a. So it says the Gemara is as follows. B'mikuravos nami di'ika lememar minei nafal. So we'll say if the stones are close to the primary markerless idol, and you could say that they came from the primary markerless idol. When we say they came from the primary markerless, what does that mean? I will say, remember, it sounds strange, but how do you worship the markerless idol? How do you worship it? You throw stones at it. Which I will say sounds like looks like almost like, what do they call, like those carnival games? You know, like we have to throw whatever. So right, so you have the two stones and you have a stone on top, and the way you worship it is you throw the stone at it. So says the Gemara, but mikuravos. Ultimately, again, where the scattered stones are close to the primary markerless, everyone will agree, therefore, that the scattered stones that are in close proximity to the primary markerless idol definitely are part of the Avoda Zara. So keep ligi, where do they argue? B'meruchakos. Where do they argue? Where ultimately, again, the scattered stones are further away from the primary markerless idol. Vaha, so the Gemara says, 1 second. Vaha b'tzad markerless katani, but that's not what the Mishnah said. The Mishnah is speaking about, again, b'tzad markerless, stones that are found on the side of the markerless, to which the Gemara says, my b'tzad. We'll say, what does it mean on the side of the markerless? B'tzad arba amos dideh. We'll say, b'tzad arba amos dideh means within 4 amos of the markerless. So we'll say, what we're beginning to see now is that stones found within Daled Amos of the markerless, again, have the potential to have a sheikhus, to have a connection to the markerless itself. We'll say, you understand what this is about, right? Meaning, who cares? Who cares about this? So why does this matter? Why does this matter? I want to use the stones to build my house. I find some scattered stones. I want to use the stones to build my house. So we'll say, so again, the shaila is, can I use the stones or not? So here I find a bunch of nice stones, but they're in proximity to the markerless idol. Can I use them or not? So we're trying to figure out what determines, or how could I determine if the stones are part of the markerless Avoda Zara, or they're just random stones. So already we're beginning to see that if the stones are found by Bitsad, so Bitsad means within Daled Amos. If the stones are within Daled Amos of the markerless, then that already begins to paint a picture that these stones are in fact Avoda Zara stones. So the Gemara says, my Bitsad Arba Amos, today, Rabbi Shmuel Silber, Rabbi Shmuel says, Osin markerless katan Bitsad markerless gadol. Supposed to listen to this. So Rabbi Shmuel says that it was often the custom to do as follows. They would have the big markerless idol, but then they would often make a smaller markerless idol right next to the larger markerless idol. Therefore, what? Osin markerless katan Bitsad markerless gadol. Shalosh dedamyon lemarkerless asurus. So we'll say 3 stones. Now remember, as we said before, there are 2 ways that you would make a markerless idol. What are the 2 ways? Either 2 stones on top of one, or I guess if you were in a rush, what would you do? Just 3 stones next to each other. Rabbi Shmuel says the derech of markerless was they would have one primary markerless idol, but often it was common to have a smaller markerless idol next to the larger one. And the smaller one could have been a simpler markerless idol, but it was just 3 stones, one next to the other. So listen to this. So therefore, shalosh tadamya lamarkerless asuros shtay mutar. So we'll say, now we're beginning to understand the shitos over here. So we'll say, now, what does Rabbi Shmuel say? Rabbi Shmuel says, if you have a primary markerless idol, and you find 3 stones within Daled Amos of that primary markerless idol, and those 3 stones are even just aligned one next to the other, Rabbi Shmuel says those 3 stones are usher. Why? What do you have to assume that is? That is not just the throne stones, but what? That's a mini markerless. Mini markerless, right? That's a mini markerless. But again, that's if it's 3 stones and in proximity, right? But if it's only 2 stones, we'll say then that's no longer a mini markerless. Rabbanan say no. Ein osin markerless kata v'say markerless gadol. Loshna shalosh v'loshna shtayim. So we'll say the Rabbanan say no. They're arguing on like Avoda Zara Metzias. The Rabbanan say no, it wasn't the custom to make a small markalis next to the large markalis. So for Rabbi say for the Rabbanan, if you find stones next to the markalis, what do you have to be choshesh for? That those stones were used for what? For actual throwing. So therefore the Rabbanan say like this. So we'll say in the Rabbanan's model, the number of stones makes no difference. See, in Rabbi Shmuel's model, the number makes a difference. Why? Because what does Rabbi Shmuel choshesh for? Rabbi Shmuel is choshesh for a small markalis in proximity to a large markalis. So therefore, the only time to be choshesh is if you find 3 stones and it's in proximity to the larger markalis. But if it's not 3 stones, you don't have to worry about anything. The Rabbanan is saying, no, people didn't make a smaller markalis next to a larger markalis. What you have to be choshesh for are stones that were used in the worship of the markalis. So what's the determinant of that? Niros imo asuros, she'in niros imo mutaros. The Rabbanan will say what? The Rabbanan will say, ultimately, again, you have to gauge this based on how it appears to you. Does it appear that the stones that are close to the markalis were stones that were thrown at the markalis, therefore were used in Avoda Zara, ultimately again, and then Asr or not? So we'll say this is actually very interesting. You see, in the Rabbanan's model seems to be a bit more imprecise than Rabbi Shmuel's model. But nevertheless, this is the fundamental machlokes between the Rabbanan and Rabbi Shmuel. It's an interesting machlokes. Rabbi say, it sounds funny, but they're arguing it's a machlokes in how you worship Avoda Zara. That's the machlokes. Rabbi Shmuel says they would often make a smaller markalis next to a larger markalis. Therefore, if you find a 3-rock formation within Dalit Amos of the larger markalis, that 3-rock formation is going to be Asr. 2 rocks won't be Asr because that's not a mini markalis. The Rabbanan say they didn't build a mini markalis next to the larger markalis, and if you find stones in proximity to the larger markalis, those stones will be Asr. But only if what? Only if what? Only if someone has the appearance that it was used ultimately again to be thrown at the larger markalis. So again, the ambiguity in the Rabbanan's Rabbi says obviously you need proximity, but you also have to be able, I guess, to gauge whether or not it was actually used in the worship of the larger Avodah Zara. Good. Amar Mar. Biadua shenishru mimenu. Divri akal asura. So let's listen to this. So we said before, when it is known that the stones literally came from the markalis, were thrown at the markalis, come from the markalis, everyone agrees that what? That they will be asr. Or minhu. So let's analyze this. So we'll say if you have stones which came from the markalis, literally shenishru means we'll say that fell off the markalis, which bepashtus means they were stones that were thrown at the markalis and therefore come from the markalis. So we'll say what's the halacha? So urmini avanim shenishru min markalis niros imo asuros. If the stones we'll say have the appearance of coming from the markalis, then they're asr. She'in niros imo mutaros. We'll say if they appear that they're not from the markalis, then they're mutar. Rabbi Shmuel says, so we'll say this is the sheet of the Rabbanan, right? This is the sheet of the Rabbanan, that everything is about nira. Does it have the appearance that these were stones used to worship markalis or not? Rabbi Shmuel says, shalosh asuros, shtayim mutaros. Rabbi Shmuel says, 3 stones in proximity to the markalis will be asr, like we said before, because of the mini markalis issue. 2 will be mutar. Amar Rava. So Rava says, lo tema shenishru, ela ima shenimtsu. So we'll say, ultimately, again, don't read it as shenishru, rather, again, read it as nimtsu. That ultimately, again, they were found. And we'll say that there's the nimtsu and nishru, as Rashi points out, nishru means biadua. Ultimately, again, it was known. Obviously, if it was known, everybody will agree. The case that we're dealing with, Rabbi says that what? Stones are found in proximity to the markalis, but the status of those stones, of course, is not immediately known. Therefore, again, a person ultimately, again, just has to make the assessment according to the Rabbanan. Does it appear they were used for markalis or not? The Zara Rabbi Shmuel Shtay Mutaros, but I will say, is that true that Rabbi Shmuel holds? That if you only find 2 stones in close proximity to the markalis, then it'll be mutar. But we learned Rabbi Shmuel Omer Shtayim B'Tvisa Lo Asuros Shalosh Afilu Meruchakos Asuros. So listen to this brisa. Rabbi Shmuel holds that if you find 2 stones B'Tvisa, I will say, look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says over Vatanya Rabbi Shmuel Omer Shtayim B'Tvisa Lo Ustam Tvisa Dalet Amos V'Katani Asuros. I will say Tvisa literally means to hold on to something. So the brisa seems to be saying as follows: that Rabbi Shmuel holds that if you find 2 rocks B'Tvisa, which seems to mean within Dalit Amas of the markalis, right, within grasp of the markalis, within Dalit Amas of the markalis, that's going to be Asr. 3 stones even further than tfisa achas, even further than dalet amas. Excuse me. That 2 stones will be. I'm sorry. Let me say that again. Rabbi Shmuel holds that if you find 2 stones within tfisa, within dalet amas of the idol, it will be aser. 3 stones, even further than dalet amas, will be aser as well, because as we said before, that'll be the mini markerless. So you see that Rabbi Shmuel holds that even 2 stones is problematic. Amarava lo kasha. Rabbi said that contradicts the Mishnah. Because what did the Mishnah say? According to Rabbi Shmuel, only 3 stones seem to be problematic, 2 are not. So Rabbi says it's not a kasha. Kan betvisa achos, kan b'shtei tvisos. Rabbi said, listen to this. One is talking about tvisa achos, one is about 2 tvisos. What does that mean? Look at Rashi. Betvisa achos, Rabbi said almost right across from Agos Habach. So betvisa achos, hadik tani asura betvisa achos shein hefsek beinam lemarkelis. Va'asura bein Rabbi Shmuel bein Rabbanan chol toch dalet ames niros imo karile. Ubeshalosh meruchak osu dupligi. V'hadu kimnal plutz. The Gemara suggests as follows: if ultimately again you find rocks within dalet ames of the markelis, everyone will agree that those rocks are considered to be part of the markelis itself, and will be usher even just 2 rocks. Once you get further away, that's where the machlokias occurs. Once you get outside of dalet ames, in that case, Rabbi Shmuel holds only a formation of 3 rocks will be problematic. The Rabbanan will say it's not really a question of distance, it's a question of does it have the appearance that the rocks that you find were used in the service of markelis. If the answer to that is yes, then even if it's more than dalet ames away, those stones will be problematic. Vehechi dami, I will say, what's the case? Di'ikagova beini ubeini. Well, this is actually interesting. The case will be where there is a mound in between the markelis and the stones that you find. Look at Rashi. Di'ikagova, tell, mafsik beinam the markelis. Dahavalu kimiruchakos, deleka lemeimar minei naflo. Hilchoch, Rabbi Shmuel, shtay mutaras al gimel asuros, the osin markelis, katan b'tzar markelis kadabos. Listen to this. So therefore, let's say you have a mound of earth in between the markelis and the stones that you find. So also in Rabbi Shmuel's model, if you just find 2 stones, so then again, those stones will not be problematic. Why? Because they can't be anything connected to the primary markelis. If you find 3 stones, it's going to be problematic. Why? Because let's remember Rabbi Shmuel's model, how do you worship markelis? You have a large markelis and then what? A mini markelis, right? Far, not, close by. Even if there's a mound in between, that's okay, because that mini markelis is still connected to the larger markelis and therefore will be aser. Or markelis ki agavna mihavi. So we'll say, does markelis actually work this way? Rashi says ki agavna zubit sadzu. So we'll say this is interesting. What the Gemara is saying is as follows: that Rabbi Shmuel's entire shita of Avoda is based on this idea. Primary markelis is made how? Right? 1 stone on top, 2 stones on the bottom. That's markelis. In Rabbi Shmuel's model, he says that even if you find 3 stones, 1 side by side, that's also mini markelis. People would make markelis like that as well. So Gemara says, really? Would people actually make markelis like that? So markelis ki agavna mihavi. V'atanya we learned eluhein beis avnikuyus. We'll say these. How do you know if you have stone? We'll say beis avnikuyus is markelis. This is how you know if you have stones of markelis. Achas mikan va'achas al gabehen. We'll say 2 on the bottom and 1 on top. That's markelis. Amarava. So we'll say, see from here that what? Markelis is not 3 stones side by side, it's 2 stones and 1 on top. Amarava, kitanya hahi be'ikr markelis. We'll say ultimately again, this is when you are making ikr markelis. Look at Rashi. Ikr markelis, Rashi is tchilaso. So we'll say it's like, you have primary markelis and you have travel markelis, right? So travel markelis, which also you have to understand something. So the way Avoda Zara works, is Avoda Zara, this is going to sound very strange, but like the chap of it, or a little bit of the, I'm going to use this word, but it's not the beauty of it, but I don't mean, is that it's simple and easy. That was the idea of Avoda Zara. The ability to have your deity with you, and the ability to worship other, now we have the same thing. We have the same, we have the same thing. We can worship HaKadosh Baruch Hu anywhere and everywhere. Now we do that because ultimately, again, there is no physicality to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so I don't need a physical medium. Of the Avoda Zara wanted the same chap, the ability to worship their God wherever they were. So markelis, if you think about it, is the easiest Avoda Zara. It's 3 rocks, 2 and 1. Right? So that was a primary markerless. The Gemara is just suggesting over here there's an Ikar markerless, but there's a travel mini markerless. So how do you take travel mini markerless with you? Pocket markerless, right? So I'll say, so what do you do? Meaning pocket markerless is just 3 stones laid out, because sometimes it takes extra few seconds to balance 2 and then 1. So again, 3 stones side by side, that's markerless. That's markerless also. But listen to this. Bei Yanai Malka Charov. So we'll say, it happened that the palace of King Yanai, right? King Yanai was one of the Hashmonai kings. So the palace of King Yanai was destroyed. So we'll say what happens. Asu Ovdei Kochav Mokimu Bei Markerless. So we'll say this is actually a really fascinating case. So what happened? So Ovdei Kochavim came and they set up markerless. So they took over the palace of Yanai, and they went ahead and they set up markerless. Asu Ovdei Kochav Machrini, the lo palchi le markerless. So we'll say, so what happens? New Ovdei Kochavim came in. They didn't like markerless, right? They don't daven at that shul. So what happens? So they come in. I will say they come in, and what happens? Shaklinu. So listen to what they did. I will say. So they saw markerless. They don't like markerless. So what did they do? They took out the stones. And they decided to shaklinu v'chipu bahen drachim v'sartios. So listen to this. They took out the markerless stones, and what did they do? They paved the roads. They paved the roads and high, because it was markerless is good stones. That's good. That's good quarried stone. So they took the stones of markerless. They paved the roads and the highway. So now what's the shaila? So ikar rabbanan de parshim, v'ikar rabbanan de lo parshim. Listen to this. So now the fundamental shaila was, are Jews allowed to use these roads? Right? The Ovdei Kochavim took, again, the new Ovdei Kochavim, the stronger ones who didn't worship markerless, took the markerless stones, paved the roads, paved the highway. So the shaila was, could the Jew take this road or not? So listen to this. So there were some rabbis who took the road, some rabbis who didn't take the road. Right? So there are times throughout Jewish history where not all Rabbanim agreed on things. Right? There are very few periods of that, but it did happen throughout our history. So Ikar Rabbanim de Parshi, there literally means there are some rabbis who separated from these roads, Ikar Rabbanim de Lo Parshi, some Rabbanim who didn't separate from these roads. So let's listen to this. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Benon shel kidoshim mahalei chalein va'ana nifrosh mehen. So Rabbi Yochanan says, literally, the son of the holy ones, he's making reference to some great rabbi, the son of the holy ones didn't separate from it. The son of the holy ones goes ahead and takes the road, and we should separate? Or as Rabbi Yochanan was saying, there's a great person who travels these roads. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for us. Who is the one who's called the son of the holy ones? Rabbi Menachem Rabbi Simoi. Rabbi Menachem, he was the son of the holy ones. We'll say ultimately, why is he called the son of the holy ones? We'll say, listen to this. We'll say he wouldn't even look at the graven image on a coin. In other words, we'll say he was so meticulous to avoid anything to do with Avoda Zara that Imamish wouldn't even look at the image on a coin. Because images on coins sometimes were monarchs, sometimes were rulers, but sometimes were deities. But he wouldn't look at graven images, even the image on currency. So we'll say, even Rabbi Menachem, Rabbi Simoi, who was Benon Shel Kedoshim, ultimately again, who would not look at graven images, felt that it was okay to take this road. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for us. So says the Gemara, well, let's analyze this. So we'll say this is really fascinating. My time demanded parish. So we'll say, what was the logic of the rabbis who wouldn't take these roads? Savarla, Kihada Amrav Gidol Amrav Chia Bar Yosef. We'll say first white line in the bottom of Nun Amad Aleph. Because they held the Rav Gidol and the Rav Chia Bar Yosef. Amrav, Minana Takrovis Avodas Kom She'in La Betela Olamis. We'll say, how do we know that Avodah Zara is never batal? It's never batal. Eina Betela Olamis. So it says the Gemara, look at Rashi, Minayim Takroves, Vahani Takroves Ninu, Dazorik Evel Markelis, Zuya Vodaso Hilchach, Lavalos Chom Atzmahi, the Tiskila Babitel. They will say, now this is actually very interesting. The Gemara is assuming that the stones that they took were lav dafka actual Markelis stones, meaning they didn't necessarily have to be the stones of the idol itself. It's possible that they were what? The stones that were thrown, we'll call it the worship stones. So we'll say that worship stones are called takroves. Those are items with which Avodah Zara was worshipped. So how do we know that essentially an offering to Avodah Zara is never batal? It can never lose its Avodah Zara identity. Where do we know that from? Shneimar, vayitzmedu lebal pa'or, vayochlu zivchei mesim. We'll say they worshipped Baal Pa'or and they ate literally again offerings of the dead. So you see, we've seen this a number of times that Avodah Zara is compared to corpses. Ma mace ain't lo b'tei We'll say just like tumas mace is never bottle. In other words, a corpse never stops being bottle. A corpse is always tame. That tumas mace is never bottle. Af takroves avodas kochavim ain't lo b'tei liolim. So it's Rabbi say offerings of Avoda Zara are never bottle as well. So therefore, Rabbi say there was a whole group of rabbis who said you can't take these roads. Why? Because these are markerless stones. These were stones that were quite possibly and probably used to worship Avoda Zara. Their identity as Avoda Zara worship items is never bottle. Walking on the road is benefiting from them, and you're not allowed to do that. Therefore, they would not take the road. Uman de lo parish. So listen to this. This is actually fascinating. What about the ones who did not separate, who did use the roads? What was their logic? Amar ba'ina ke'ein pnim v'laka. They said that in order for something to go ahead and become aser, because it was used in the offering of Avoda Zara, an offering to Avoda Zara is only aser if it resembles an offering that we do inside the Beis HaMikdash. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Ke'ein pnim zvachim sheba mikdash hu dahabi takrovis. So we'll say it is only if an offering to Avoda Zara resembles an offering that we do in our Beis HaMikdash that it becomes aser. Kedechsev zobeach le'elokim yecheram bilti or zobeach le'elohim yecheram bilti laHashem levado. Literally, one who offers to a god will be killed, except to HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Alma domek kelifnim kari zevach. Avodas kochavim va'avanim ein ovdin lemifnim. So let's listen to this. So the fact that the Torah asks, the Torah says you can only worship, you can't worship other gods like you worship HaKadosh Baruch Hu, tells that the only time I'm chayiv for Avodah Zarah, we'll say is when my service to Avodah Zarah resembles something that we do inside the Beis HaMikdash. But if what I do for Avodah Zarah does not resemble that which is done in the Beis HaMikdash, it's not called worship of Avodah Zarah. Now we're going to define the scope of this in just a little bit. But also the act of throwing rocks, does it resemble anything that we do in the Beis HaMikdash? No. Therefore, what? Therefore, again, rocks thrown from markerless, the Gemara suggests, do not become aser as takroves Avodah Zara. Do not become aser as an offering to idolatry. And this was the logic of the rabbis who took the roads. So the Gemara said, so again, fundamental machlokes, incredible machlokes, right? Incredible machlokes about whether or not, I will say, you have to imagine, by the way, that this type of situation must have happened because all the Avodah Zara often switch. We know this historically, often switch from one to the next. So, when you went from one Avodah Zara fad to another, so it must have been you had a lot of Avodah Zara materials. So what do you do with that, right? So the contractors get to work. You've got the stone, you've got this wood, you've got all this stuff. You use it. So mamish, they had roads that were made from from items formerly used for idolatry. So can you take it or not? Some major machlokas. Some rabbanim said yes, some rabbanim said no. Amar Rav Yosef bar Abba, Ikla Rabba bar Yirmiyah Asrin. So listen to this. We'll say Rav Yosef bar Abba said, Rabba one time came to our town. Va'asa aisei masnisa biyadei. He brought with him a Mishnah, and the following: Oved kochavim shevi avanim in amarkalis. If an Oved kochavim brought stones with him from Markalis, v'chipa bahen drachim v'tartios, and he used those stones to pave the roads and the highways, we'll say Nona Madbeis Muteres. Ultimately, again, it is mutter. Right? What does it mean? It's mutter that a Jew could use those roads. Now, why Rabbi say? Because if the Ovid Kochavim is taking his own Avodah Zara and building it into road, then what is he doing? He's being mevatel. Rabbi say, remember again, we have discussed that Ovid Kochavim has the ability to be mevatel his own Avodah Zara. So in Rashi, tap Rashi, Mutaros tebatlunu Ovid Kochavim. Oh, watch this. Yisol shevi avanim in amarkalis chibaim drachim with sartios. But say, but if a Jew took stones from Markalis and went ahead and used them to pave roads and highways, then what? Asuros, right? Asuros, the roads are aser. The roads are aser. Now we'll say, when Rava came along, when Rabbi Yirmiyah came along and he said this over, he said, Veles nagar velo bar nagar diparkine. And we'll say nagar literally is a carpenter, right? A carpenter was often the name for a Talmud Chacham, right? The Talmud Chacham takes raw materials and creates beautiful things from it. So Rabbi said there's not a Talmud Chacham or a son of a Talmud Chacham who knows how to go ahead and interpret this properly. Look at Rashi just a moment. Nagar ben Nagar, Chacham ben Chacham. Amar Rav Sheshes, Ana lo nagar ana, v'lo bar nagar ana. So again, Rav Shesha says, I am not the Talmud Chacham, and I'm not the son of a Talmud Chacham. Uparkinile, and the truth is, I think I could interpret this Mishnah, my kushile, right? So we'll say, what's the shaila over here? To Rav Gidel, ba'inan ke'ein panim v'leka. Ultimately, again, I will say, because it could just be that this is reflecting the view of Rav Gidel. In other words, why is it that if the Ovid Kochavim goes ahead and builds it into the road, that it's okay? So we'll say, you could look at it as just a simple case of bittul, but again, the case of bittul only works if what I will say, if halacha lamaisa, it's the person who worshipped it is mevatal it. But ultimately, if it's an Ovid Kochavim who doesn't subscribe to this, then that's not bittul. If that's the case, then why would it work? As Rav Gidel said before, so what would Rav Gidel say? The only time something is asra al takroves is when the form of worship of Avoda Zara mirrors something we did in the Beis Hamikdash. But if it doesn't mirror that which we did in the Beis Hamikdash, then Allah Chalamayis, it doesn't become asra al takroves. Amar Rav Yosef bar Abba. Fine. Amar Rav Yosef bar Abba. Amar Abba. So we'll say again. So just so you understand. So Lamaisa, it appears that even though we say that which is used in the service of the base of Avodah Zara becomes asr, and that isser is forever until the person who worshipped it is mevatel it. Apparently, the isser takrov is something only becomes asr as an offering to Avodah Zara if it somehow, some way resembles that which we did in the Beis Hamikdash. But if it doesn't resemble that which we did in the Beis Hamikdash, then it doesn't become asr. Now we're going to qualify this just a little bit more. Let's go back to Amar Rav Yosef. Amar Rav Yosef bar Abba. Ikla Rabbi Bar Yirmiyah Lasrin. Says the Gemara. Amar Rav Yosef bar Abba. Ikla Rabbi Bar Yirmiyah Lasrin. One time Rabbi Bar Yirmiyah came to our city. V'asa aisi masnisa b'yadei. He brought with him a Mishnah, brought with him a teaching. Maslian u'mizamin b'shviyas. Well, let's listen to this. Maslian means you're allowed to deworm. You could deworm wood, right? You could deworm a tree. You could deworm wood on Shemitah. We'll say mizamin is very interesting. If you look at Rashi, mizamin, it's the last wide line on the top of Rashi. Kishiyesh maka be'ilan. When there's some type of wound, some type of damage to a tree, or some type of, it's not really damage, it's the tree has an illness, it's the wrong word. Disease. There's some type of disease in the tree. So we'll say, so what happens? That's shown ultimately again by some of the bark, some of the outside of the tree starts falling off. Madbikin sham zeva. This is actually interesting. They would put some type of manure on the tree. The koshrin, and Rabbi said they would bandage the area. They bandage the area, shelo yamos, that the tree shouldn't die. V'lo dami hai lashas, fine. So listen to this, Rabbi say. So Rabbi comes along and he says the following: that maslina mezam b'shlius. So we'll say on Shemitah, even though you're not permitted to go ahead and what? You're not permitted to go ahead and work the land, but you could deworm a tree and you could treat tree disease. Ve'ein maslin u'mezam emoy. Rabbi say on Chalamayid, you can't go ahead and deworm the tree, nor can you treat tree disease. So the Gemara says, kan v'kan, both on Chalamayid as well as on Shemitah. Ein megazmin, you can't prune the tree. V'sachin shemen lagazim, but if branches were pruned, you could put oil on the branches. So we'll say apparently after you pruned a tree, it was common to go ahead and put oil, I guess, on the edges of the tree, somehow just to make sure the tree was okay. Bein b'moed, bein b'shviyas. And you could do that ultimately again both on Chalamayid as well as Shemitah. V'les nagar v'lo bar nagar de parkine. And again, it wasn't a Talmud Chacham or a son of a Talmud Chacham who could explain this particular teaching. So Amar Ravina came along and said, one second, Anan v'lo nagar v'ana v'lo bar nagar ana. I'm not a nagar, right? I'm not a Talmud Chacham. I'm not son of a Talmud Chacham, and yet what? Umifarkin. And I could answer this. So what's the problem over here that needs to be answered? So we'll say, if your problem is that you don't understand the difference in practices between Chalamayid and Shemitah. So we'll say, remember again, what did we start by saying? We started by saying that on Shemitah, you're permitted to go ahead and deworm as well as treat tree disease. Yet what? On Chalamayid, you can't deworm or treat tree disease. So if you're bothered by that distinction, Maishna Shviyas the Shari, Maishna Moed Aser. Why is it on Shemitah these things are mutter and on Chalamayid it's Aser? That's easy. Mi dami Shviyas Malacha Aser Achmana Tircha Shari. So we'll say, here's the issue. On Shemitah, the only thing you're not allowed to do, we'll say, is what? You're not allowed to work the land. In other words, we'll say you can't engage in productive work of the land. You could stave off loss. Which we'll say is effectively what you're doing over here. You're staving off loss. By deworming the tree, by treating tree disease, you're preventing the tree from dying. So we'll say, on Shvius, the only thing you're not allowed to do is malacha. You're not allowed to do active, productive work. But tircha, but exertion is permitted. Moed, afilu tircha nami aser. We'll say, on Chalamayda, we'll say, it's not just a din in malacha, it's a din in what? It's a din in tircha. Therefore, by definition, anything which involves exertion, which is unnecessary for the moed itself, will be aser. Therefore, even deworming or treating tree disease will be aser. The elazium agizum kakashle. Rather, I know what your question is. Your question is ultimately, again, regarding zium. We'll say, remember, zium means treating tree disease versus pruning. Right? So you're allowed to treat tree disease on Shemitah, yet you can't prune. Why not? So the Gemara says, Maishna zium deshariu maishna gizum de'aser. Why is it that during Shemitah, treating tree disease is mutter, but yet what? Pruning is aser. So the Gemara says, it's obvious. Midami. Zihum ukmi ilana v'shari. Gizum ivruye ilana v'aser. Both say there's a difference. Zihum, treating tree disease, Rabbi say, is there to what? Is there to go ahead and stave off loss. If you don't treat the tree disease, what happens? What happens? The tree dies. Masha'inkim, pruning, Rabbi say, what's the point of pruning? Pruning, if you don't prune, will the tree die? No. What does pruning do, Rabbi say? Pruning allows the tree to be more vibrant. So therefore, again, on Shemitah, you're allowed to do things, Rabbi say, to prevent loss. So if I don't treat the tree disease, the tree will die. But pruning, Rabbi say, which is not there to prevent loss, pruning, which is there to allow the tree to be more vibrant, that I'm not allowed to do. Maybe what your shayla is like this. Why is it that ultimately treating tree disease is permitted on Shemitah, be it it's going to be asr during Chalamayid? Diktani maslinu mizamin b'shvius. So I'll say ultimately again it says that you can go ahead and deworm. And I'm sorry, excuse me, I take that back. We have a contradiction about treating tree disease. What are the brayso that we just quoted before? Abba said that what? You're allowed to treat tree disease on Shemitah. Or mini. Mizamin esanatios. Yeah, we'll say so again. Diktani maslinu mizamin b'shvius. Also, we just said before that you can go ahead and treat tree disease on Shemitah. Or mini ba'orei zakasha. Mizamin esanatios. Also, you're allowed to treat tree disease. Ultimately, again, for saplings. Vikarachin osan. And you're allowed to go ahead, I will say, and literally place bandages around them. Or bundle them, I should say. We'll define that later. Vikotmin osan. We'll say, so apparently, again, for certain types of tree disease, you placed ash on the tree. Va'osan lahem batim. And I will say, you can make batim for them. What's the case of batim? So Rashi says over here, no, maybe not, it doesn't say here. There's Rashi?
Yeah.
Am I missing it?
It's up.
Okay. Osam batim, right? Geder amma, thank you. Geder amma govasi osam alon osam. So say batim means they would essentially pack it with dirt around the root. So literally they make a structure to be able to pile up additional earth by the root. Umashkin osam ad Rosh Hashanah. And you could water them up until Rosh Hashanah. Ad Rosh Hashanah in, so we'll say, it sounds like that Ad Rosh Hashanah is going on all of the things we just stated, including what? Including treating tree disease. Ad Rosh Hashanah in, b'shviyas lo. You could treat tree disease up until Rosh Hashanah, but not on the Shemitah year itself. So we'll say a contradiction, because the Mishnah, the brayso we just quoted before said you can't treat the tree disease even on Shemitah. Now we're saying you can't treat tree disease on Shemitah. So which one is it? So maybe it's reflecting the view of Rav Ukva Bar Chama, because Rav Ukva Bar Chama said, Trey kashkushi havu. Both say, interesting enough, there are two types of hoeing. Kashkushi means literally to hoe around the tree. Chad la'avriye ilana va'aser. Both say one type of hoeing is to go ahead and strengthen the tree. V'chad l'satume pili v'shari. And one is to close up the cracks, the exposed cracks by the roots of the tree. So also listen to this. So the type of hoeing, which is to close up the exposed cracks by the roots, that's going to be permitted. The type of hoeing, ultimately, again, that's to strengthen the tree, that's going to be aser. Hachanami, maybe you can see over here also, trezihimumi havu. There are two types of treatment for tree disease. Chad lu'ukme ilani. One is to strengthen the tree, b'shari, and that's going to be okay. Or I should say, one is to treat the tree, to strengthen it. and that's going to be permitted. One is to cause the tree to grow more vibrant, and that is going to be aser. So we'll say, but this in general is one of the dominant features in Hilchos Shmita. In Hilchos Shmita, we'll say anything that is needed to treat the ground or to treat growths so that they don't die will be permitted. Anything to go ahead and cause greater or enhanced vibrancy, that's going to be aser. So therefore, the Gemara is suggesting that it could even be with tree disease, that there are certain types of treating tree disease to stave off loss, that's going to be permitted. But to go ahead and cause the tree to be more vibrant, that's going to be aser. Vela sicha asicha kakashile. Rather, I will say no. The contradiction is as follows. Because also remember again, the Mishnah quarter before said that you could put oil on a pruned branch, and you could do that both on chalamayid, meaning a branch that has been pruned, you could put oil on it, both on shmita as well as chalamayid. Or mini yerez akasha, sachin es pagin. So you could go ahead and put oil. Both say pagin are underdeveloped figs. Rashi says es pagin, pagi teina. So they used to apparently smear the figs with oil, and that allowed the figs to absorb more moisture to become even juicier. So sachin esapagin, you can go ahead and coat the figs with oil. Umenakvin, and I will say you could pierce holes in them. Umefatmin osan, and you could fatten them up. Rashi says, so we'll say apparently they would pierce holes and put oil not just on the outside but on the inside also. Ad Rosh Hashanah. So we'll say this is talking about Shemitah. You could do this up until Rosh Hashanah of Shemitah. Ad Rosh Hashanah in Bishviyas lo. So we'll say, see from here that what? Here you could put oil on the pagin, on the figs up until Rosh Hashanah. So we'll say, we assume that whatever is true by the pagin will also be true by the branches. You can also own, therefore, again, what did we just say before? You can put oil on the pruned branches even in Rabbosai, even during the Shemitah year itself. Yet it seems to be over here that the application of oil can only be done up until Rosh Hashanah of Shemitah. Midan, I will say, can't compare it. Hacha ukmi ilan v'shari. I will say, by the case of putting the oil on the branch that has been pruned, I will say, why do you do that? You do that in order to allow the tree to have health, right? That the branch itself should not die, and therefore that's why it's permitted. Hasam patume pera. Was the act of smearing the figs with oil? Was that was done to fatten up the fruit? So you can do that until Rosh Hashanah of Shemitah. You can't do that on Shemitah itself. Omli Rav Samri, Rav Ashi, Ravina, Bar Yirmiyah, Sicha demoid azim demoid kakasha. We'll say no. Really, the contradiction was the smearing of the oil on the pruned branch versus the treating the tree disease on chalamayid. So we'll say, interestingly enough, you can't treat tree disease on chalamayid, but you can what? You can smear the oil on the pruned branch. What's the pshat with that? Michte ha'okmi v'ha'okmi. Both of these things should be permitted. Why? Because neither of them are there to enhance growth. They're all to what? To stabilize the tree. Maishna haid the shariu, maishna haid the aser. Why is it then that the smearing of the oil on the pruned branch will be mutter, yet the treating of tree disease on chalamayid will be aser? So the Gemara says, "Hainu dekamarle les nagar velo bar nagar deparkine." We'll say this is what Rabbi said. This Mishnah is shver, right? Even a Talmud Chacham, nor the son of a Talmud Chacham, has the ability to properly go ahead and interpret it. We'll say because ultimately, again, it seems to defy interpretation. So bottom line, the kasha that Rabbi had on Mishnah, we'll say, was why is it that it is permitted to go ahead and and apply oil to the pruned branch of a tree on chalamayid, yet what? You can't treat tree disease on chalamayid. Both seem to serve the same purpose, which is what? Which is lemaisa, again, staving off loss, which is something which is permitted on chalamayid. Yet again, the application of the oil to the pruned branch is permitted. The treatment of tree disease is going to be prohibited, and that's why Rabbi said no one could interpret, not a Talmud Chacham, nor the son of a Talmud Chacham could interpret the Mishnah appropriately. So we'll say, actually, the Russian others bring down that since there could be an answer. The answer also could be that lemaisa, like chalamayid, as we just said before, it's not just that there's an Isser Malacha, there's also an Isser Tircha. the application of oil to the prune branches could be something that doesn't involve tircha. Masha'enkein, the treatment of tree disease could be something that involves an incredible amount of tircha. That is a possible answer. Apparently, Rabbi must have thought of that as well. Didn't feel that was a legitimate answer. Therefore, the Mishnah is shver. Right? So we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up Amar Yehuda and Meretz Hashem tomorrow.